Hey folks, Robbie Payne with Chrome Unboxed. Today coming at you with a full review of the Acer C720P. I did do a review of the C720P in white months ago. You can see that on the channel. I also did a review of the C720 that looks very similar to this. A couple different hardware changes. This is the C720P in the gray and black, but it also has 4 gigs of RAM. So the one that I reviewed before had 2 gigs. And I wanted to give a quick overview. You can reference those two for probably a little more in-depth look at the way it performs and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to give you a quick overview and a few months later retry at life with the C720P. Get logged in here. And so a couple different hardware things. It looks a lot like just the original out of the box C720. Obviously gray body, black keys, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to go crazy on that, but we'll take a quick look if you haven't seen the other videos. On the side here we've got HDMI charging, your combo headphone, microphone jack, USB 3.0, flip side, a USB 2.0, full-size SD card slot, Kensington locked. Back side we got fans. And it looks like there is a tray there for a SIM card slot, you know, like they could build that in at one point. I have yet to see one personally, but that I'm sure could happen. You got a couple LEDs show when you're charging, that kind of stuff up here. Other than that, nothing else here. Top does, if you can catch any of that stuff. You can see some of the fingerprint stuff up here. I literally just wiped it down. It takes about 2 seconds. A good hot breath and your shirt or whatever takes that off, so it's really not bad. Like you can see, it's not picking it up now, but when your hands get oily, as they tend to do during the day, and you get your fingers on it, you can start to leave some fingerprints. They wipe off easily. The bottom doesn't collect much at all. Lots of fans, lots of screw ports. You can't open this guy up. There's some videos from other people on the web where they've opened it up, added SSD. Unfortunately, I don't believe you can add any more RAM to it as it is soldered onto the board. Another important hardware change that you'll see in this one versus the C720. That's the same thing in this one in the C720P, so don't confuse that, but the white one that I reviewed before. But this one versus just the standard C720, if you set them side by side, you would notice a difference in the bezel because the screen is different. The screen is not matte finish, so it is reflective. You can actually see that in the video. You can see the tripod reflecting in there. And so that's worth noting. Because the bezel actually, the covering of the screen actually comes all the way to the corner, so it's just as fingerprint prone as the original C720 that has just the glossy plastic bezel. It's a small difference, but it's an easy way to tell a C720P from a C720. So and obviously this guy's touchscreen. We've covered that, everybody knows that. A couple things that I want to point out from my time with the C720P this go round. With 4 gigs of RAM, I noticed 0 performance difference, not one itty-bitty performance difference from the HP 14. And that's considerable because the HP 14, honestly, I feel performs day-to-day stuff, work stuff, browsing internet type stuff, watching movie stuff, those kind of things. Stood toe-to-toe, honestly, with the Chromebook Pixel that I had. Like, I don't feel like when I moved to the C7 or the HP 14 or the C720 with 4 gigs of RAM, I don't feel like either way that I'm taking some sort of step back in performance. Matter of fact, if you haven't already, it's fun to check out. There's a game called Age of Ascent. Age of Ascent, and you actually do ageofascent.com, age of, and then ASCENT.com. Go to that website. It's in super duper alpha mode right now, so it's not even close to being released. They're talking about a whole year of development on it, but what they're doing is some crazy like spaceship multiplayer real-time strategy thing, and so you can get in there with literally hundreds of people will be in there playing it at 4 o'clock on Saturdays. You go to ageofascent.com. The kicker of it is it all runs in a web browser, and so I wanted to put my Chromebook to the test, and so I loaded this up on Saturday. I forget every week. So last week I happened to be at home, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try this and see what happens. And honestly, I was really expecting, because it's not crazy 3D graphics, but you know, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of other people in there. The thing has no load time. You go, you hit launch, and you're playing. And so it's really brilliant to see what's happening with web-based computer or game programming at this point. Anyway, so I loaded up, expect to see a lot of jitters, a lot of stutters running it from a Chromebook, because they never said, hey, this is Chromebook specific. They just said, hey, this is a web-based, cloud-based game that we're trying to develop. And so I honestly went in expecting it to stutter all over the place, and was so pleasantly surprised that it loaded up. It ran in 60 frames per second. There were hundreds of 3D rendered ships being played by other people, with tons of shots and stuff firing all over the place, and these big ships, other big mega ships flying around. Not a frame dropped. I mean, it was so buttery smooth. It was so impressive, and that was on I want to say that was on the HP, but these are all the same internals. They're all Celeron based, 2 or 4 gigs of RAM. It's all the same kind of stuff. So they all have that 2995U Haswell class Celeron processor in them. So I was so pleased with it. And so I say all that to say that the performance for me is not a huge step back. And this one is completely exactly on par, which you would expect it to be, with the HP 14, which I've been very, very happy with for months now, and kind of am still waiting patiently for something to come and supplant that as my daily driver. I actually thought and bought this computer with the intent of this being my new daily driver, because I thought having it in my lap, being able to kind of type and just reach up and touch something, to scroll web pages, it is nice. It is nice to do that. And if you don't have a tablet and you don't really have a need for getting a tablet, and this is going to be your primary sit on the couch, scroll around the internet kind of device, and you can see pinch to zoom works, then by all means, it would be honestly really great for that. And when I would remember to get it out of my bag and open it up and use it on the couch, I really enjoyed it. And so the touchscreen works really well. Chrome OS is slowly but surely developing some decent touch sensitivity things. It's not quite a full-fledged touch OS at this point, but it is a decent experience in a lap on a couch for sure. But I also have an iPad and I have a Galaxy Note 3, so I've got 2 tablet-esque other devices that tend to, if I'm going to do that kind of browsing and surfing, those tend to dominate my time at home. And so I ended up using this thing for work, which kind of brings me to some of the cons of it. The screen is rough. It really is. It's not bright at all. It's cranked up to full brightness right now as you're looking at it. And, it's serviceable, but for me, I ended up, usually I have my Chromebook plugged into a secondary monitor, so a nice 24-inch HD monitor, and so I don't think about it too much. It's a second screen. But for whatever reason this last week, there were multiple times I actually had to go meet a client, either at a restaurant or something like that, and we're talking sunlit rooms, and we were really having some issues seeing anything on the screen because it was so dim. And then it's small, it's 11.6 inches, so portability is the game here, not really usability in a work kind of scenario. And so that's where something like a Toshiba or the Samsung Chromebook 2, something with a 13 to 14 inch screen, really, for me, for my use cases, works out a little bit better. So know that going in. The screen's dim. It's not the easiest thing to see in the world, and you may run into some issues if you're using it out and about. If you're hooking it to a secondary screen, you never think twice about it. But if you're not, you run into some issues. Similarly, the keyboard is a bit cramped, and the keys can feel a bit mushy from time to time. It's very serviceable. I'm not saying it's a terrible keyboard. It's not that at all. It's a mediocre keyboard, and the keys are a little squished. And so if you're used to a full-spaced keyboard, sometimes it can feel a little constricting. Same goes with the trackpad. The trackpad works just fine. I mean, it doesn't have any issues. Like one of the C720s, I can't remember if it was the P or the C720, I had some issues with the trackpad. So I believe probably due to the cost, they're a bit hit and miss. But this one, multi-finger gestures, I had no problem with. It does collect oil real quick, and so it can kind of have a stuttery feel like when you're scrolling through stuff. And so that was a little troublesome. But other than that, the mouse was serviceable. It's just small, and so, I mean, it's a small machine, and so it's just part of it. And so sometimes it felt a little condensed here. Again, I was using this device off of a tether way more than I normally do, and so these things really started bothering me pretty quickly. And so again, I'm used to using the HP 14, so I'm used to the extra screen real estate. I'm used to the nice wide trackpad and nice big keyboard. And so if I don't have the luxury of being at the office hooked into a big screen and a secondary keyboard and a secondary mouse and stuff like that, then hey, I wouldn't have known any difference. It was the times that I had to take it off the tether that really kind of bothered me. But for all those things, like I said, the touchscreen is fantastic. It really works well for a device that is in this price range. It really, really works well. It's light. It's well built. It doesn't feel flimsy. I still like the build quality overall, the feel of this device. I like this one better than even the new Samsung Chromebook. It still has a bit of a flimsy feel to it. This one, when you pick it up by one corner, you don't feel like the thing's bending all over the place. And you can even see from this angle here, I mean, I'm trying to put some pressure on it, and it's fairly rigid. The touchscreen, whenever you go to, if you're holding it and you're going to navigate some stuff, it doesn't wobble around. Kind of show you from the side. So the hinge is pretty decent, and so as I'm tapping it, you're not seeing the screen just kind of wobbling back and forth. So there's a lot of pros, really there is. I enjoy a lot about this device, and like I said, I put it through performance tests on other stuff, so there's not really a whole lot of use in doing that now. The Haswell processor is getting a bit long in the tooth when it comes to showing you performance stuff. I'll show you one thing real quick, so you can see Skid Racer, see how long. Hopefully it won't take it long. I'll kind of do my closing thoughts here and let it kind of finish loading up. And this is what you won't see with Age of Ascent, by the way. Like every web-based game I've seen thus far has this kind of, oh, there it comes. This kind of, you know, 30, 45 seconds of loading. It takes it a minute to get going. That's another thing I was shocked with Age of Ascent. You know, I went to the thing, I hit yeah, I want to play, and boom, I was going. It was really, really interesting. And maybe they were loading it somewhere in the background or something. I don't really know. But I think I ran this in the Samsung Chromebook review, and you could see how rough it was. It was really bad. And so this is going to show you really quickly. You know, these Haswell class processors, they deliver the battery life that any ARM is going to give you, any ARM chip is going to give you, and then on top of that, the performance you're going to see, it's just in a different league. And so you'll be able to look at this and possibly like look at the Samsung Chromebook 2 review and see the complete difference here. But while this is finishing loading up, every time, twice now I've said that. So we got really good frame rates going on here. I don't remember what accelerates. Up maybe, hopefully. Let's see what happens. Yeah, nice and smooth. Oh, yeah, I'm terrible at this. It's really touchy. Now, Acer did show at the Intel event on the C720P with an i3 processor in it. Now, you'll see every once in a while you've seen a hiccup, a little frame rate drop, like right there, you just saw one. For the most part, you're getting 30 to 60 frames, looks like. Everything's nice and smooth. Like I said, every once in a while, there's lots of elements on the screen, we start losing some frame rates. You know, for what we're looking at here, that's not a big deal. And so, processor knocks it out of the park, just like you would expect it to. And the touchscreen is actually kind of delightful to use. And so, those things I would say are really key wins. And so, if you're not looking for something that has the best screen, probably you're going to be looking at something that actually in this has just about the worst screen as far as color reproduction, being really washed out and not being very bright. So it's not unusable. Please don't hear me saying that. It's not unusable. It is very usable. And at this price point, it's not even a surprise to me. It's not shocking at all. And this is the point where I throw in my requisite every single time I review a Chromebook. I think there are a lot of people who would be very happy to pay $500 to say, hey, we want something like this, but kick the processor up a little notch and give me an awesome screen. You know, give me something. Give me an IPS panel, HP 11. You know, something like that. And so, anyway, starting to get pinged for some other stuff, and probably time to wrap this review up. So, pros: touchscreen's pretty awesome, lightweight, well constructed for the most part, and a decent bargain for your dollar. The performance is great. Cons: the screen's rough, keyboard's cramped, and the trackpad's a little cramped. So maybe this guy's one for you, maybe it's not. Again, it depends on your use case. And so think through those things. I can recommend this definitely in the price point. I can recommend and say this is a great Chromebook for anybody that's looking to spend some money on this and wants a touchscreen. And so that's all I got, guys. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments. Hit me up on Google+. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe. The more subscribers, the more I can keep pushing forward with this, keep getting more Chrome stuff, keep reviewing it for you guys. So until next time,